Welcome to my channel. Let me ask you one honest question. What if the reason you still cannot speak English confidently is not because your English is weak, but because nobody ever showed you the right method? Many learners spend years studying grammar, memorizing vocabulary, and watching random English videos. But when the moment comes to speak, they still feel nervous, confused, and afraid of making mistakes. They think fluency is only for intelligent people. They think they need expensive courses, perfect grammar, or natural talent to speak English well. But what if I tell you that fluency is actually built through small, simple habits that almost anybody can follow? In this video, I am going to share the exact method that slowly changed my English step by step. No pressure, no difficult techniques, no confusing grammar lessons. Only simple daily habits that helped me understand English naturally, think in English more easily, and speak with more confidence over time. And the most surprising part is this. Some of the habits that helped me the most looked very small and very simple at the beginning. So stay with me till the end of this video because today I will show you why most learners stay stuck for years. What habits quietly improve your English every day, and how you can start changing your English from today even if you are a complete beginner. One idea from this video can completely change the way you learn English forever. Chapter 1. Why most English learners feel stuck and the biggest mistake beginners make. I want to start this chapter with a very simple question. Have you ever studied English for many days, maybe even many months, but still felt nervous when speaking? Have you ever learned new vocabulary today and forgotten it tomorrow? Have you ever watched English videos and thought, why is my English still weak? If your answer is yes, then I want you to stay with me very carefully because this chapter can completely change the way you think about learning English. The truth is very simple. Most English learners are not failing because they are not intelligent. Most learners are failing because they are learning English in a stressful and unnatural way. They are trying to force English into their brain instead of allowing English to slowly become part of their life. This is one of the biggest mistakes beginners make. Many students think English fluency comes from studying hard grammar rules all day. Some learners buy expensive courses. Some memorize long vocabulary lists. Some spend hours watching random videos. But even after doing all this, they still feel stuck. Why? Because learning a language is not only about information. It is about daily exposure. It is about repetition. It is about building a relationship with English step by step. I have seen many students in my life. Some were very young, some were adults, some were shy, some were confident. But most beginners had one thing in common. Fear. Fear of making mistakes. Fear of speaking wrong English. Fear of forgetting words. Fear of sounding silly in front of other people. And slowly this fear becomes bigger than the learning itself. This is very dangerous because fear blocks improvement. When your brain feels stress, learning becomes harder. Your mind becomes confused. You stop enjoying the process. And when learning stops feeling enjoyable, consistency also disappears. Many learners also compare themselves with fluent speakers. They watch someone speaking confidently and think, I can never speak like that. But they forget something important. Every fluent speaker was once a beginner too. Nobody starts with perfect English. Nobody speaks fluently on the first day. Fluency is built slowly through small daily habits. I remember many learners who gave up too early because they expected fast results. They studied English for 2 weeks and then became disappointed because they were not fluent yet. But language learning does not work like magic. It works like planting a tree. At first, nothing looks different. But under the ground, the roots are growing quietly. Then one day the tree becomes visible. English learning works exactly the same way. Another huge mistake beginners make is trying to become perfect from the beginning. They want perfect pronunciation, perfect grammar, perfect speaking, perfect understanding. Because of this, they become afraid to even open their mouth. They think every sentence must be correct before speaking. But this mindset creates pressure, and pressure kills confidence. Let me tell you something very important. Mistakes are not your enemy. Mistakes are part of learning. Every mistake teaches your brain something new. If you avoid mistakes all the time, you also avoid growth. Children make thousands of mistakes while learning their first language, but they continue speaking every day without fear. Adults should learn from this. Another problem is inconsistency. Many students study English only when they feel motivated. One day they study for 3 hours. Then they stop for 1 week. Then they start again. This breaks the connection between the brain and the language. Your brain needs regular contact with English. Even small daily practice is more powerful than long study sessions once in a while. This is where my method started changing everything for me. I stopped trying to study English in a stressful way. I stopped chasing perfection. Instead, I focused on simple daily habits. Listening a little every day. Reading a little every day. Thinking in English a little every day. Speaking small sentences every day. These habits looked small, but over time they became very powerful. I also realized something surprising. English becomes easier when you stop treating it like a school subject and start treating it like part of your daily life. For example, instead of only memorizing vocabulary, I started noticing English around me. In videos, in songs, in simple conversations, in stories. Slowly, English stopped feeling foreign. Another thing beginners do is choosing material that is too difficult. They watch advanced movies or read difficult books because they think difficult content will help them improve faster. But usually this creates frustration. When something is too difficult, your brain becomes tired quickly. Motivation becomes weak. You start feeling that English is impossible. Simple English is powerful. Easy stories are powerful. Beginner conversations are powerful. Repetition of simple things is powerful. You do not need difficult words to become fluent. You need strong understanding of common English first. I also want to tell you something many learners never hear. You do not need to understand every single word to improve. Many beginners stop reading or listening every few seconds because of unknown words. This destroys focus and enjoyment. Your goal is not perfection. Your goal is understanding the message. Over time, your brain naturally learns repeated words and patterns. Another important lesson I learned was patience. Real improvement often feels invisible at first. Sometimes you feel nothing is changing, but slowly your brain is adapting. One day you suddenly understand more than before. One day speaking feels slightly easier. One day reading feels less stressful. These small moments are signs of real progress. Confidence also grows quietly. Every small success matters. Every paragraph you understand matters. Every sentence you speak matters. Every day you continue matters. Confidence is not built in one big moment. It is built through many small wins. So in this chapter, I want you to remember one powerful idea. The problem is not that English is too difficult for you. The problem is that most learners use stressful methods and expect instant results. My method became successful when I focused on simple daily exposure instead of perfection. Little by little, English started feeling natural instead of scary. And trust me, this is only the beginning. Because in the next chapter, I will show you the first real step that changed my English forever. Many learners ignore this step completely, but once you understand it, your learning process becomes much easier, calmer, and faster. Chapter 2. My first step to learn English. And why listening changed everything. In the previous chapter, we talked about why most English learners feel stuck and why so many beginners lose confidence very early. Now in this chapter, I want to share the first real step that completely changed my English learning journey. And honestly, this step looks very simple, but most learners ignore it. The step is listening. Many beginners think listening is not important at the start. They think speaking should come first. They think grammar should come first. But the truth is very different. Before your mouth can speak English comfortably, your brain must first become familiar with English. And listening is one of the fastest ways to build this familiarity. I still remember the time when English sounded impossible to me. Whenever I watched an English video, everything sounded too fast. Native speakers sounded like they were speaking one long word without stopping. I could not separate the sentences. I could not catch the pronunciation clearly. Sometimes I understood one word and missed the next 10 words. It felt frustrating. Maybe you feel the same way right now. But then I realized something very important. The problem was not my intelligence. The problem was that my ears were not trained yet. Just like muscles become stronger with exercise, your listening ability becomes stronger with daily exposure. At first, I made a very common mistake. I tried to understand every single word. Every time I heard an unknown word, I stopped the video. I checked the meaning. Then I played the video again. This made listening stressful and tiring. After some time, I lost motivation. Then one day I changed my method completely. I stopped chasing perfect understanding. Instead, I focused on understanding the main message only. This small change removed so much pressure from my mind. Listening suddenly started feeling calmer and more enjoyable. This is one of the biggest secrets of language learning. Your brain does not learn language word by word. Your brain learns language through repeated patterns and repeated exposure. The more English you hear, the more familiar English becomes. At the beginning, I started listening to very simple English, slow English videos. Beginner conversations, short stories, daily routines, easy podcasts. I did not choose difficult content because difficult content creates frustration for beginners. Simple content creates confidence. And something very interesting started happening after a few weeks. Even though I still did not understand everything, some words started feeling familiar. Then some sentences started feeling familiar. Then common expressions started appearing again and again. Slowly, my brain started recognizing patterns automatically. This is why consistency matters so much. One day of listening will not change your English, but daily listening slowly changes the way your brain hears the language. Another thing listening helped me with was pronunciation. Before daily listening, many English words looked completely different from how they sounded. Sometimes native speakers connected words together. Sometimes sounds disappeared. Sometimes pronunciation changed inside fast speech. This confused me a lot at first, but daily listening slowly trained my ears. I started hearing natural rhythm. I started understanding connected speech. I started noticing how real English sounds in daily life. This is something grammar books alone can never teach properly. Another mistake many learners make is only studying silent English. They read grammar, they memorize vocabulary, but they never spend enough time hearing real spoken English. Because of this, when somebody speaks naturally, their brain feels shocked. Listening practice solves this problem. I also learned the difference between active listening and passive listening. Active listening means sitting quietly and focusing completely on the English audio for some time. Passive listening means hearing English while doing other activities like walking, cleaning, or relaxing. Both are useful. Both help train your brain. Sometimes I listen to the same audio many times. At first I thought repetition would feel boring, but actually repetition made learning easier. Every time I heard the same sentences again, my understanding improved a little more. Repetition builds familiarity. Familiarity builds confidence. Another important lesson I learned is that beginners should not compare their listening ability with advanced learners. Some people understand English quickly because they have already spent years hearing the language. Beginners need patience. Your brain needs time to adjust. And let me tell you something very powerful. Even when you think nothing is happening, your brain is still learning. This is why many learners suddenly experience surprising moments. One day they understand a sentence without translating. One day they recognize words faster. One day English sounds less scary. These moments happen because the brain has been learning quietly in the background. Listening also improved my speaking later. This surprised me a lot. I noticed that after hearing English daily, some sentences naturally came into my mind while speaking. Why? Because my brain had already stored these patterns through listening. This is why input is so important before output. First, your brain needs examples. Then speaking becomes easier naturally. Another powerful habit that helped me was repeating simple sentences aloud. Not difficult sentences, only easy, useful sentences. This improved my pronunciation, rhythm, and confidence slowly. Sometimes I copied the speaker exactly. This is called shadowing, and it is very powerful for beginners. I also stopped trying to sound perfect. Many learners become obsessed with accent. They want to sound exactly like native speakers immediately. But communication matters more than perfect accent. Clear speaking is more important than sounding perfect. One more thing I want beginners to understand is this. Listening should become part of your daily life, not only your study time. Listen while traveling. Listen while resting. Listen while doing simple activities. The more English enters your ears, the more natural it becomes for your brain. So, in this chapter, I want you to remember one important idea. Listening is not passive. Listening is training. Listening is preparation. Listening is building the foundation of fluency slowly and naturally. Do not worry if you do not understand everything right now. Your brain is learning more than you realize. And trust me, what I am about to share in the next chapter may surprise you even more. Because in the next chapter, I will explain how reading slowly changed my vocabulary, my thinking, and even my confidence in English. Many beginners ignore reading at the start, but reading became one of the strongest parts of my entire method. Chapter 3. How reading slowly changed my vocabulary and helped me think in English. In the previous chapter, we talked about how listening became the first powerful step in my English learning journey. Listening trained my ears, reduced my fear, and slowly made English feel familiar. But now I want to talk about another habit that completely changed the way I understood English. And honestly, this habit was much more powerful than I expected. That habit was reading. At first, I did not enjoy reading English. Every page looked difficult. There were too many unknown words. Sometimes one paragraph felt like hard work. I opened a book, and after 5 minutes, my brain felt tired. Maybe you have experienced this too. Many beginners feel excited at first, but after seeing difficult words again and again, they lose confidence very quickly. But one day I realized something important. The problem was not reading itself. The problem was that I was choosing the wrong material and using the wrong mindset. I thought reading meant understanding every single word perfectly. Because of this, I stopped again and again to translate words. This made reading slow, stressful, and boring. Then I changed my method completely. I stopped trying to understand everything. Instead, I focused only on understanding the main idea. This small change made reading feel much easier. Suddenly, English stopped feeling like a test and started feeling like communication. I also started reading very simple English. This is extremely important for beginners. Many learners choose difficult books because they think difficult material will help them improve faster. But usually the opposite happens. Difficult books create frustration. Simple books create confidence. I started with short stories, beginner articles, and simple daily conversations. Some texts were so easy that I thought they were too basic for me. But something surprising happened. Because the language was simple, my brain could actually relax and learn naturally. And slowly, without forcing myself, my vocabulary started growing. This is one of the biggest secrets of reading. Reading teaches vocabulary naturally inside real situations. When you memorize words from a list, your brain often forgets them quickly because there is no emotional connection or context. But when you see words inside stories and real sentences, your brain remembers them more easily. For example, If you learn one word from a vocabulary list, you may forget it tomorrow. But if you see the same word again and again inside different stories, conversations, and situations, your brain slowly stores it naturally. This is how children learn language too. They do not memorize dictionary pages. They hear and see words repeatedly inside real life. Another powerful thing about reading is sentence patterns. When you read daily, your brain starts recognizing how English sentences are built. You start noticing common structures again and again. Slowly, your brain understands what sounds natural in English. At first, I translated every sentence into my native language. This made reading very slow. But after some time, something interesting started happening. Sometimes I understood the meaning directly in English without translation. This felt like a huge breakthrough. That was the moment I realized my brain was slowly starting to think in English. This is a very important stage for every learner. Translation is normal at the beginning, but too much translation can slow your progress later. Reading helps reduce this habit naturally because your brain becomes familiar with English patterns directly. Another thing reading changed was my confidence. Every time I finished one page, I felt proud. Every time I understood a story better than before, I felt motivated. These small wins slowly changed the way I saw myself. I stopped saying, "My English is weak." Instead, I started saying, "I am improving." This mental change is very powerful because confidence affects learning deeply. I also realized that reading improves many skills at the same time. It improves vocabulary. It improves grammar. It improves sentence structure. It improves thinking ability. It even improves speaking later because your brain stores useful expressions naturally. Many learners think reading only helps reading, but actually reading supports your entire English system. Another important lesson I learned was patience. At first, progress felt very slow. Sometimes I thought nothing was changing. But then one day I noticed something surprising. Sentences that looked difficult before suddenly felt easier. Words I used to forget quickly started feeling familiar. My reading speed slowly improved without forcing it. This is how real learning works. Improvement often happens quietly. One more mistake many learners make is stopping too often during reading. Every time they see a new word, they open the dictionary immediately. Of course, dictionaries are useful sometimes, but too much stopping destroys flow and enjoyment. You do not need to understand every word to improve. If you understand the general message, your brain is still learning. Over time, repeated words become familiar naturally. I also learned that enjoyment matters a lot. When reading feels interesting, your brain focuses better. This is why choosing topics you enjoy is very important. If you like stories, read stories. If you like daily life topics, read simple articles. Curiosity keeps the brain active. Another powerful habit was reading regularly, even on busy days. Some days I only read for a short time, but I stayed connected with English daily. This consistency slowly built a strong relationship between my brain and the language. And something beautiful started happening after some months. English no longer felt completely foreign. It started feeling more natural, more comfortable, and less scary. That is the real power of reading. Reading is not only about words on a page. Reading is daily exposure to natural English. Every sentence trains your brain quietly. Every paragraph strengthens your understanding. Every story builds familiarity and confidence. So in this chapter, I want you to remember one simple but powerful idea. Do not read to impress people. Do not read to become perfect immediately. Read to spend calm daily time with English. Read to build familiarity. Read to train your brain naturally. And trust me, what happens next is even more interesting. Because in the next chapter, I will explain how reading and listening slowly improved my speaking even before I started serious speaking practice. This surprised me completely, and it may completely change the way you think about speaking English forever. Chapter 4: How Reading and Listening Slowly Improved My Speaking Without Pressure. In the previous chapters, we talked about listening and reading, and how these two habits slowly changed my understanding of English. But now we are going to talk about the thing most learners care about the most: speaking English confidently. And honestly, this is where many beginners feel the biggest fear. Many learners understand some English. They know vocabulary. They know grammar rules. But the moment they try to speak, their mind becomes blank. Their heart beats faster. Simple sentences suddenly feel difficult. They start translating in their head. They become nervous about making mistakes. Maybe this has happened to you too. I understand this feeling very well because I experienced the same thing. At the beginning of my journey, I thought fluent English meant speaking fast and perfectly without mistakes. Because of this belief, I became afraid of speaking. I wanted every sentence to sound perfect before opening my mouth. And this was one of my biggest mistakes. One day I realized something very important. Speaking is not about perfection. Speaking is about communication. You do not need perfect grammar to communicate. You do not need a perfect accent to communicate. You only need confidence to express simple ideas clearly. But here's the interesting part. My speaking did not improve because I forced myself to speak all day. My speaking improved slowly because of listening and reading. This surprised me a lot at first. The more I listened to English daily, the more natural English started sounding inside my brain. The more I read simple English daily, the more sentence patterns my brain started storing automatically. Slowly, my mind became full of natural English examples, and then something powerful started happening. When I tried speaking simple sentences, some words and structures came naturally into my mind without too much effort. Why? Because my brain had already seen and heard these patterns many times before. This is why input is so important before output. Many beginners want to speak fluently immediately without first giving enough English input to their brain. This creates pressure and frustration. But when your brain already knows common patterns through listening and reading, speaking becomes much easier and calmer. I also stopped trying to speak difficult English. This is another huge mistake beginners make. They try to use advanced vocabulary and long, complicated sentences because they want to sound intelligent. But this usually creates stress and confusion. Simple English is powerful. At the beginning, I started speaking with very small sentences, very simple daily sentences. Sentences about my routine, my feelings, my plans, and my surroundings. For example, I said simple things like, I am tired today. I need some water. I am watching a video. Today the weather is nice. These small sentences looked simple, but they trained my brain to think in English slowly. Another habit that helped me a lot was talking to myself in English. Many people think this sounds strange, but honestly, it is one of the best methods for beginners. When you speak to yourself, there is no pressure. Nobody is judging you. Nobody is correcting every mistake. You can stop, think, repeat, and continue calmly. Sometimes I described what I was doing. Sometimes I explained my plans for the day. Sometimes I repeated useful sentences from videos or books. This daily self-speaking slowly built my confidence. At first, my speaking was slow. Sometimes I stopped many times. Sometimes I forgot words. Sometimes my sentences were incorrect. But instead of feeling embarrassed, I focused only on communication. This mindset changed everything. Because the truth is very simple. Fluency grows through practice, not through fear. Another important lesson I learned was stopping the habit of overthinking. Many beginners think too much before speaking. They try to build perfect grammar in their head first. But during real communication, this creates stress. Fluent speakers do not build every sentence slowly from grammar rules. Their brain recognizes patterns automatically because of repeated exposure and practice. This is why listening and reading helped my speaking so much. My brain already had many English patterns stored naturally. I also learned that mistakes are completely normal. At first, every small mistake felt huge to me. If I pronounced one word incorrectly, I felt embarrassed. If my grammar was wrong, I lost confidence immediately. But later I realized something important. Mistakes are proof that you are practicing. Nobody learns speaking without mistakes. Even children make thousands of mistakes while learning their first language. But they continue speaking every day without fear. Adults should learn from this mindset. Another thing that helped me was shadowing. Shadowing means listening to a short English sentence and repeating it immediately like a mirror. This improved my pronunciation, rhythm, confidence, and speaking flow slowly. I did not try to sound perfect. I only tried to sound clear and natural. And slowly, my speaking became smoother. Not because I memorized difficult rules. Not because I forced myself to sound advanced, but because my brain had enough repeated exposure to English daily. Another important point is confidence. Many learners think confidence comes first and then speaking becomes easy. But actually the opposite is true. Confidence comes after repeated practice. Every small conversation builds confidence. Every sentence you speak builds confidence. Every moment you continue despite mistakes builds confidence. I also stopped comparing myself with fluent speakers online. Comparison destroys motivation. Every learner has a different journey. Some people improve faster, some slower. What matters is consistency, not comparison. One more thing I want you to understand is this. You do not need perfect conditions to practice speaking. Many learners wait for a speaking partner, a course, or the perfect environment. But you can start today with yourself. Talk to yourself. Repeat simple sentences. Describe your surroundings. Read small paragraphs aloud. These habits look small, but they become powerful over time. And slowly something beautiful starts happening. English stops feeling like a school subject. English starts feeling like part of your daily life. Speaking becomes less scary. Your brain becomes calmer. Your sentences become smoother. Your confidence becomes stronger. So in this chapter, I want you to remember one powerful idea. Speaking is not born from pressure. Speaking is born from familiarity. The more English your brain hears and reads daily, the easier speaking becomes naturally. And trust me, the next chapter may completely change the way you think about grammar forever. Because in the next chapter, I will explain how grammar became easier for me naturally without memorizing endless rules and without making English feel stressful. Chapter 5. How grammar became easy naturally and why most learners fear it too much. In the previous chapter, we talked about how listening and reading slowly improved my speaking without pressure. And now we are going to talk about something that scares almost every English learner in the world. Grammar. The moment many students hear the word grammar, they immediately feel stress. Some remember difficult school lessons. Some remember red correction marks on notebooks. Some remember confusing rules and long explanations. Because of this, many learners start believing grammar is the hardest part of English. I used to feel exactly the same way. At the beginning of my English journey, I thought grammar was everything. I believed I could not speak English until I mastered all grammar rules perfectly. Because of this, I spent a lot of time memorizing rules. Present tense, past tense, articles, prepositions, conditionals. And honestly, after studying so much grammar, I still felt confused while speaking. This frustrated me a lot. I knew grammar rules in theory, but during real conversations, my brain became blank. I forgot structures. I became nervous. Sometimes I knew the rule, but still could not use it naturally. Maybe this has happened to you too. Then one day I realized something very important. Grammar is not only something you study. Grammar is something your brain slowly absorbs through repeated exposure. This understanding changed everything for me. The more I listened to English daily, the more natural sentence structures started feeling familiar. The more I read simple English daily, the more I started recognizing grammar patterns automatically. Without forcing myself, my brain slowly started understanding what sounded correct in English. This is how children learn language too. Children do not sit with grammar books for years before speaking. First, they hear the language again and again. Then their brain slowly recognizes patterns naturally. Adults can learn in a similar way too. This does not mean grammar is useless. Grammar is important. But beginners often study grammar in the wrong way. They try to memorize hundreds of rules before building familiarity with real English. This creates stress and confusion. I also realized another important thing. You do not need advanced grammar to communicate clearly. Many beginners think fluency means using very difficult grammar structures all the time. But in real life, most conversations use simple grammar again and again. simple present tense, simple past tense, basic questions, common sentence patterns. These simple structures are extremely powerful. When I stopped trying to sound advanced and focused on clear communication instead, speaking became much easier. Another mistake many learners make is studying grammar without context. They memorize rules from isolated examples, but they do not see how grammar works inside real conversations and stories. Because of this, the rules disappear quickly from memory. Reading changed this problem for me completely. Every sentence I read became a small grammar lesson naturally. I started seeing how native speakers use grammar in real situations. I saw how verbs changed. I saw how questions were formed. I saw common sentence patterns repeating again and again. Slowly, grammar stopped feeling random. My brain started recognizing patterns automatically because of repetition. And something surprising happened after some months. Some sentences simply started feeling right to me. Even when I could not explain the grammar rule perfectly, my brain recognized natural English patterns. This is very powerful, because real fluency is not only about remembering rules. Real fluency is about familiarity with natural language patterns. Another thing I learned was stopping the habit of correcting myself every second while speaking. Many beginners destroy their confidence because they panic after every small grammar mistake. They stop in the middle of sentences. They restart again and again. This creates fear and hesitation. But communication is more important than perfect grammar. Of course, improving grammar matters, but fluency grows faster when you allow yourself to communicate freely first. Small mistakes are normal during learning. I also learned that grammar improves slowly over time through consistent exposure. At first, progress feels invisible. But after daily listening and reading, your brain quietly absorbs sentence structures again and again. One day you suddenly notice that building sentences feels easier. One day grammar exercises look less confusing. One day your speaking sounds smoother naturally. This is because repeated exposure trains the brain deeply. Another huge mistake learners make is trying to study too many grammar topics at the same time. This overwhelms the brain. Beginners do not need to master every complicated rule immediately. Focus on common useful grammar first. Simple grammar used confidently is much stronger than complicated grammar used with fear. I also stopped seeing grammar as an enemy. This mindset is very important. Many learners treat grammar like punishment. But grammar is simply a tool that helps people understand each other clearly. When you change your mindset, learning becomes much calmer. Another powerful thing that helped me was noticing patterns instead of only memorizing rules. For example, after hearing and reading the same sentence structures many times, my brain started predicting them naturally. Repetition builds familiarity. Familiarity builds confidence. I also learned that perfection is impossible even for native speakers. Native speakers sometimes make grammar mistakes too during fast conversations. Communication still happens, so do not wait for perfect grammar before speaking English. Use English while improving gradually. Another important lesson is patience. Natural grammar development takes time. Some learners become frustrated because they do not see fast improvement. But deep learning is usually slow and quiet. Just because progress feels slow does not mean progress is not happening. Every page you read helps grammar. Every video you watch helps grammar. Every sentence you hear trains your brain a little more. This is why consistency matters much more than intensity. So in this chapter, I want you to remember one powerful idea. Grammar does not become easy through fear and pressure. Grammar becomes easier through daily exposure to real English. Listening, reading, and simple speaking slowly train your brain naturally over time. And trust me, the next chapter is the most important chapter of this entire video. Because in the next chapter, I will show you the real secret behind long-term English improvement. The thing that matters more than talent, more than expensive courses, and even more than intelligence. And once you truly understand this final lesson, your entire English journey may change forever. Chapter 6. The real secret behind my English improvement, and how small daily habits changed everything. Now we come to the most important chapter of this entire video. Because after listening, reading, speaking, vocabulary, confidence, and grammar, there is still one thing that matters more than all of them together. And honestly, this is the real reason some learners become fluent while others stay stuck for years. The secret is consistency, not talent, not intelligence, not expensive courses. Consistency. This lesson completely changed the way I learned English. At the beginning of my journey, I always searched for fast results. I wanted to improve quickly. I wanted fluency immediately. I watched videos with titles like Speak English Fluently in 30 Days or Learn English Fast. And every time I saw slow progress, I became disappointed. Maybe you feel the same way sometimes. Many learners think fluency should happen very quickly. They study hard for a few days and then expect dramatic results. But when improvement feels slow, they lose motivation and stop practicing. This is one of the biggest reasons people fail. Language learning is not magic. Language learning is a daily process. Think about going to the gym. One workout will not completely change your body. But small workouts repeated for months create huge changes. English works exactly the same way. At first, I did not understand this. Some days I studied for many hours. Then I became tired and stopped for 1 week. Then I started again. Then stopped again. This cycle continued for a long time. But one day I realized something powerful. Small daily habits are stronger than big random study sessions. This changed my entire approach. Instead of trying to study perfectly, I focused on staying connected to English every single day. Even on busy days. Even on lazy days. Even when motivation disappeared. Some days I listened to English for only 20 minutes. Some days I read one short story. Some days I practiced simple speaking for a few minutes. The activities were small, but the consistency was strong. And slowly something beautiful started happening. English stopped feeling like a difficult school subject. It started feeling like part of my daily life. This is very important. When English becomes part of your routine, your brain stops resisting it. The language slowly becomes familiar, comfortable, natural. Another important thing I learned was this: you do not need motivation every day. This may sound surprising, but it is true. Many learners wait until they feel motivated before studying English, but motivation changes all the time. Some days you feel excited. Some days you feel tired. If you only practice when motivation appears, your progress becomes unstable. Discipline is more powerful than motivation. Even when you do not feel excited, small practice still helps your brain grow. In fact, some of the most important progress happens during ordinary quiet days when you simply continue the habit without dramatic emotions. I also learned not to make my routine too difficult. This is another huge mistake beginners make. They create impossible study plans, 4 hours of grammar, hundreds of vocabulary words, long complicated schedules. After a few days, they become exhausted and quit completely. Simple routines are stronger because simple routines are easier to continue. My method became powerful because it felt realistic. Listening a little every day, reading a little every day, speaking a little every day, thinking in English a little every day. These habits looked small, but together they slowly changed my entire relationship with English. Another thing I learned was patience. Real progress is often invisible at first. Sometimes you practice every day but still feel weak. You feel like nothing is changing. This stage is dangerous because many learners quit here. But what they do not realize is that the brain is still learning quietly in the background. Then one day something surprising happens. You suddenly understand more of a video. You suddenly read faster. You suddenly build a sentence more naturally. You suddenly feel calmer during speaking. These moments feel magical, but they are actually the result of many small days of practice adding together. I also stopped comparing myself with other learners. Comparison destroys confidence very quickly. Some people improve faster because they started earlier. Some have more free time. Some already know another language. Every learner has a different journey. The only comparison that matters is who you were yesterday. Another important habit that helped me was enjoying the process. Many learners make English feel like punishment. They force themselves to study material they hate. This removes joy from learning. But when learning becomes enjoyable, consistency becomes easier naturally. I started choosing content I truly liked. Interesting stories, useful conversations, motivating videos, topics connected to my real life. This made English feel less stressful and more meaningful. I also understood something very powerful. Confidence is built through consistency. Every small day of practice tells your brain, I am improving. Every page you read builds trust. Every sentence you speak builds courage. Every listening session builds familiarity. Confidence is not built overnight. Confidence grows slowly through repeated action. Another lesson I learned was forgiving myself after bad days. Sometimes you will miss practice. Sometimes you will feel tired. Sometimes your mind will feel slow. This is normal. Do not destroy your journey because of one bad day. Fluent people are not people who never fail. Fluent people are people who continue after failure. And honestly, this mindset changed everything for me. I stopped chasing perfection and started chasing consistency. I stopped asking, how can I become fluent quickly? And started asking, how can I stay connected with English every day? That small mindset shift changed my entire learning journey. And slowly, without pressure, my English improved more and more. Speaking became easier. Listening became clearer. Reading became faster. Grammar became more natural. Confidence became stronger. Not because I found a magic trick, but because I stayed consistent. So in this final chapter, I want you to remember one powerful truth. Fluency is not built in one exciting moment. Fluency is built in quiet daily moments that nobody sees. The days you continue even when progress feels slow. The days you practice even when motivation is low. The days you choose consistency over perfection. That is the real secret behind my English improvement. And now I want to ask you one simple question. Are you ready to build small daily habits that can slowly change your English forever? Because your journey does not start when you become perfect. Your journey starts the moment you decide not to quit.